Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Tech Talk, issue number 130 and 131. All right. So I apologize, first of all, for not doing last week because I was in the middle of moving. And as you can see, I have sort of a different background here. I have an office set up and everything. And, you know, I bought different lights and all that stuff. It just wasn't sort of in a state to do everything last week. So, you know, I just didn't do one. I probably should have said something on Twitter. Anyway, it's all ready now. And, you know, I have some lights and, you know, I can look decent and, you know, things are moving okay and things like that. So anyway, I can finally have catch up on 2 weeks of news that I've been putting out in my newsletter. So yeah, let's get to sharing on some of that stuff, and then we can talk about some of these things, and I'll be, of course, taking some of your questions and so on. But let's move to the screen where I am going to show you some of this stuff. All right, so this is issue 131, and this is issue 130. As always, you can subscribe to my newsletter. In the show notes below this video, you can sign up for the newsletter and get an email to your inbox. I think it's 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific, something like that. And of course, Mountain, and you know, depending on what other places in the world you are, you can get this as well. Anyway, lot of different stories. I haven't been doing as many videos, like I said, because I haven't had the equipment. Now I can you know, produce some. I'll definitely have more videos this coming week. But let's take a look at some of the stuff that came out last week. Well, before I do that, let me show a couple of things. My book is available on Amazon. O'Reilly has recently dropped the price. Not O'Reilly, Amazon has dropped the price. It's now $40.71 on paperback. So it was like $48.21 for a while. Before that, it was like $55, and at one point it was like $60. So it's steadily coming down. I don't know if it's because of volume or something else, but I'm obviously happy about the fact that it's relatively cheaper. It's even cheaper than I think mastering Ethereum, which is great. Not quite as cheap as mastering Bitcoin. Anyway, I would you know, if you want to learn more about Bitcoin, this is you know, this a step-by-step way to learn about all of the grisly insides that are in Bitcoin. The other thing I wanted to promote is the programming blockchain seminar. I only have one scheduled, and that's in New York City, May 5th, 16th, and 17th. If you are a developer and want to get into Bitcoin, if you want to do like Lightning eventually and stuff like that, you're going to need to learn a lot of the basics. And that comes down to, you know, ECDSA and transactions, how to parse them, what they are, script, the smart contract language behind Bitcoin blocks, and networking and all that stuff. I teach all of that in 2 days. And you know, it's the only one that I have scheduled is in New York City. I am working on like sort of a follow-on seminar that builds on top of all this for programming a wallet, and eventually once the Lightning stuff hardens a little bit, then I'll be doing one for programming Lightning. In the meantime, yeah, this is the seminar to sign up for. It's in May 16th, 17th in New York City. And yeah, please apply. You can click the apply now button, and it'll ask you a few questions. And once you have that, then you'll be good to go. All right, so let's take a look at the first story from last week. So this is like from a couple of weeks ago, but this is a great sort of interesting story from Nicolas Dorier. I believe he presented at Understanding Bitcoin in Malta, but this is a pretty long article, but it goes into the ethics of money and Bitcoin, right? Like, and you know, talks about Rothbard and Austrian economics and all this stuff. Very good article about, you know, what the important things about money are and how Bitcoin fills a lot of that stuff. So very, very good stuff. Like I suggest you read all of it and learn more about the value proposition. You might need a little bit of a technical understanding, but mostly it's economics based. All right, let's talk about this other one. This is neutrino can be dangerous, so let's grow Bitcoin's immunity with a BIP/Bolt. This is from Seth586. I don't know who this person is, but I mean, the big thing that a lot of people have been concerned about is neutrino and whether or not SPV wallets in general are a good idea. And in this article, they're referred to as light wallets. And there's a lot of interesting arguments around that, and this one is actually proposing something to alleviate the problem. And there's a single client, trusted client set up, and various better UI kind of stuff, and make it clear to the user what's going on instead of just sort of like assuming that everything is secure. So really, really interesting ideas. I would encourage you to take a look at it as well. Smart Custody Cold Storage. This is an initiative from Christopher Allen and Shannon Appleseed. Really cool stuff about how to do custody in like a reasonable way. If you are familiar with custody, there's a lot of different aspects to it that you really need to learn. The only real protocol for cold storage that's out there is the Glacier protocol, and it is just really, really burdensome to execute. So this is a much simpler cold storage scenario, and it goes through, okay, here's what you should do to do cold storage. It's not nearly as burdensome as the Glacier protocol, and here are the possible ways in which things can go wrong. These are the disaster scenarios that are being protected against with this particular protocol. And it's accidental key loss, incorrect transaction details leading to loss. Like there's a lot of stuff like that. Anyway, very good document. I know Christopher Allen is running workshops around this stuff, mostly for institutional investors. But if you do have a significant amount in Bitcoin, this is the sort of thing that you should read through and think about, because this is how you secure your Bitcoin in a reasonable way without like the complete burden of something like the Glacier protocol. So, if you are being careful, I would suggest to you to read this thoroughly and consider if this is something that you might want to do. All right, so on the Lightning side, we have the LApp tutorial, BTC Pay, Lightning Charge. And this is how you can set it up, and going through exactly how to set it up, down to the Unix command line stuff, and what buttons to click on BTC Pay and everything else. This is about as step-by-step as you can get, and then you can then get a QR code with your Lightning invoice and so on. And there's code here, right? Like you can actually go through and look through how you can execute it and everything else. Anyway, encourage you to do that if you are interested in creating a Lightning app, and making stacking sats, as they say. Lightning Network routing fee economics. Very good article from BitMEX Research. They do a lot of really good research over there at BitMEX. Going through what the economics are like, what the fee income can be depending on how much liquidity you're providing to the Lightning Network and so on. Great article. I would encourage you to look at it. But yeah, it turns out that the routing problems aren't quite as severe as people make them out to be. And lastly, this is the MP3 of the permission versus permissionless.
Thank you for coming to the panel.
Yeah, so that's the audio version, and then of course South by Southwest released the actual video, so you can see the blockchain deathmatch over here. Yeah, it was a fun panel for me, and since I didn't have any videos this week, this was the one that I put in. But yeah, it was about an hour, and basically I argued with one of the co-creators of Hyperledger on why permissioned blockchains don't really make any sense. All right, so let's take a look at the other stories from this week's Bitcoin Tech Talk. Here's the first one: Unchained smart contracts. So this is from anonymous developer ZMNSCPXJ, and basically the paper or this blog post, I'm not really sure what to call it. It talks about how to launch, create some sort of a smart contract without creating your own token or becoming a sidechain to some existing token. And there's basically an escrow protocol and using a smart contract platform, and it's called an unchained smart contract because there's no blockchain in it. And it goes through script and exactly how you would do something like multi-sig and things like that. And here there are additional Bitcoin innovations that can help in this regard and make the unchained smart contracts really awesome. But yeah, it's a really cool idea. Non-sidechain, non-altcoin kind of things that make it much easier. All right, so that was the first one. Let's take a look at the second one, Fast Sync for Bitcoin. So this is sort of like a side project almost from Nicolas Dorier. But as part of BTC Pay Server, what they found is that the syncing of the blockchain takes a long time, and it doesn't necessarily take a long time from a bandwidth perspective. It's maybe a couple hundred gigabytes, which sounds like a lot, but on modern connections, that only takes like 30 to 60 minutes oftentimes. And especially if you have like fiber or are at an office or something like that. The thing that takes a lot of time is the validation and the UTXO set calculation. Now, what does FastSync do? Well, FastSync makes it so that instead of calculating the UTXO set from the very beginning, and calculating the UTXO set is kind of cumbersome because you have to take every transaction, take out all of the spent ones, and then add in all the new unspent outputs. And you have to do that for every single block, and that's what takes hours. So what does FastSync do? Well, basically, there's a UTXO set that can be signed by somebody. So Nicola, for example, can sign a UTXO set and say, hey, here's the UTXO set as of this particular block. And instead of doing all of that calculation up to this block, you can just calculate from this block on. And that saves an enormous amount of time on the downloading and may incentivize people to run full nodes because the syncing time is so much less. Very, very interesting idea. And there's a whole protocol around how to do this. There's a funny fact at the end and things like that. So I would suggest you look. I hopefully this becomes something of standard and a trustworthy fast sync from say a known company. So say Blockstream publishes one, or if you don't like Blockstream, maybe like Coinbase or somebody. If they have a known public key and they sign a UTXO set as of a particular block, and multiple people do that, then maybe you can sort of trust it because there are multiple entities that are trying to do that. Now, it's possible that they're still trying to deceive you, and there are sort of ways to make you think that you've been paid when you haven't if you can manipulate the UTXO set. But that said, it's like if there is a little bit of trust, then this can be a massive benefit because you don't have to wait so long to create that UTXO set. All right, let's take a look at the next one. It is the $50,000 USD BTC minimum price software proposal. This was a joke by Luke Dash Jr. on April Fool's Day. The thing that I wanted to point out in this video is that this is actually written exactly like a BIP should. And if you are not familiar with how to draft a BIP, this is exactly how you do it, right? Like you create a BIP using using the template that Luke provides. Luke, by the way, is responsible for assigning BIP numbers, so he's obviously very familiar with this stuff. You're not supposed to assign a BIP number, so there's always like a question mark there. You do abstract, copyright, and it's important that you specify the copyright in case you do want to hold it. I know, for example, certain people were asking about the BIP 39 mnemonic words and whether or not they were copyrighted and so on. Like you go and tell people what your motivation is and what the rationale is and everything else. Yeah, and there's a there's a reference implementation even. Actually, I didn't take a look at this. Oh, that's hilarious. Get the USD price and push 4 bytes, and it has to be at most 5 bytes for the price. That's so funny. It's that is hilarious. And op return 4 bytes for the well, I guess it's this stuff. Yeah, 55534424. I'm sure those correspond to something. Yeah. Constant is all right. So 55 is probably APR, and then 24 is probably 1 or something like that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I'm sure this is something to do with the April Fool's joke. Anyway, fun stuff. All right, some Lightning news. There's a lot of stuff on Lightning this week. So this is from Bitrefill, and this was tweeted out by John Carvalho. But there's something called Thor Turbo or Turbo Thor. I'm not really sure which one it is, but basically the annoying thing about Lightning channels is that when you open them, you have to wait until the channel gets established before you can spend. And what they're doing is creating a channel for you and like sort of keeping them dormant, and then selling you the actual channel when you need it. So instead of needing to open a channel and doing all that, they will sell you a channel with a fixed amount in, which is a really interesting idea. And instead of having to wait 10, 20 minutes or whatever until your payment channel transaction is established, you can spend instantly. And that's the main benefit here. Instant access to the Lightning Network, channel ready to make purchases, saves you 2 waiting periods, waiting for confirmations, and so on. And oftentimes, I'm sure they will optimize for creating these Lightning channels on the cheap so that, they don't have to spend that much money, and this will take up excess block capacity maybe during like off hours or something like that. But it's a really clever idea. Hope this gains more traction. So Bolts is another Lightning project, and this is interesting. It's an exchange using something called a Submarine swap. And Submarine swaps are basically like half Lightning, half off of some other chain. So presumably the way it would work is that you have a Lightning channel, and if you want to buy an altcoin, you you use the Lightning funds to buy, some other coin like Litecoin. It can be done with a submarine swap where the Bitcoin part is via Lightning and the other coin is via on-chain. This will only work with HTLC supporting chains. Litecoin, among others, is one of them. But that's the idea, and that's what they are working on. Really cool, and this might be a decent way to fund your Lightning channels without incurring any cost on the Bitcoin network, right? Like, because essentially, if you're spending Litecoins to get Lightning capacity, then you don't have any Bitcoin. Like you don't have to close and reopen or anything like that. I've always said that I think sidechains would be even better, and this would also work for that. I'm not sure if an exchange makes much sense since a sidechain should trade at par. All right, let's see. Boltathon, this happened this past weekend. It was it's basically a Lightning hackathon, and a lot of people participated. Yeah, I wish I got this one in the week before because that would have made more sense. But yeah, I would encourage you guys that are developers that want to do stuff to participate in events like this, because this is how the network gets bigger on this stuff. And the last one is a Veriblock deep dive. Now, if you don't know what Veriblock is, and I don't blame you, but they were very annoying for a while, at least on testnet, because they were basically only validating their own transactions, wouldn't let any other testnet transactions go through. This was extremely annoying for me because I use testnet a lot, especially for teaching purposes. Anyway, it turns out that they basically make it, they use the op return field in Bitcoin to somehow detect 51% attacks and massive reorgs on other chains. And they are currently live on Bitcoin, and it's probably causing at least a little bit of fee pressure because they're using the Bitcoin blockchain for data storage, essentially. And there's a deep dive technically into exactly why Veriblock exists and what they're doing and why they need to be on Bitcoin and things like that, and the people behind it and so on. But yeah, it's an interesting usage of the Bitcoin blockchain. I don't know if this is necessarily something I would support, but it's a free market, and if they're willing to pay the fees to go and do it, then so be it. But yeah, it does seem it is a very interesting article. I encourage you guys to take a look. Once again, my book, something happened. Oh, there it is. And you can apply for the New York programming blockchain right now if you are so inclined. Anyway, let's stop sharing and let's see if there are any questions that I can answer for you guys. Will you be offering Java variants to your course in the future? Well, unfortunately, Java is not a great language to teach in. And I mean, to be fair, neither is like C++ or a lot of other languages. The reason I teach in Python is because I can move fast. I don't need a big number library, for example, which I need for finite fields, elliptic curves, which are the first two things I teach in my class. Whereas Python has those supported natively, so I don't have to go through all of the syntax changes and stuff like that. In addition, Java is strongly typed, which makes it quite verbose. And part of what makes my seminar powerful is that you are able to code whatever it is that I'm teaching you fairly quickly afterwards. A very verbose language tends to take longer to actually write down, and I can't move as fast or teach as much stuff if I were to do it in Java. So yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to maybe learn Python. I don't think it would be very hard for a Java developer, especially given that Python is largely object oriented. So yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, but yeah, somebody else might. So in that case, they can have a business that's similar to what I do. All right. Do you coin join in Wasabi? I do not. Well, I have done it, but I don't really feel the need to. At some point, if fungibility becomes an important thing, or if there's a particularly sensitive transaction I need to use, then that might be an option that I use in order to um, have sort of unconnected coins. For now, I don't really feel the need to do that. I like Samurai has something called Ricochet, which sort of like redirects and makes it so that you get back some fungible or less connected coins and stuff like that. So something that you can use as well. But yeah, I think largely a lot of the privacy stuff I don't feel a strict need to do at this moment. That might change in the future. All right. Book price is more volatile than Bitcoin. Yeah, kind of. All right, nice hat. All right. Well, anyway, that looks like all the questions for today. Thank you guys for watching. Hope all of that helps you. This song is